And we are live.
Welcome back to the We Valiant Few podcast. I am one of your hosts, back again, Slapshot.
Crossfire's here.
Raptor.
And Blackbeard is on his way back from a top secret mission. He should be joining us at some point.
Yeah, sometime relatively soon.
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
But as always,
Yeah.
we're gonna hit you with our links here real quick. So if you'd like to talk to us, we have a Gilded at
Gilded.gg/WVF. We Valiant Few.
We also have an Instagram at We Valiant Few. We have, if you're listening to us right now, then you're on YouTube.
If not, youtube.wevaliantfew.com. And all that will be contained on our website, which is still in progress.
Progress.
I don't know about you guys, but it seems like we were just here. I think like this last week just was like boom, gone.
It's because of the long weekend.
Yeah, that's probably it. It's definitely it.
We can talk about
been here for forever.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, but those are our links. Everything will be on the website at wevaliantfew.com. If not, check the description of this on YouTube, or you can check out the description of this on whatever podcast platform you're listening. All the links will be there. We hope to see you there. This episode, we're going to be exploring into an interesting topic on 3D printed, we're going to 3D printed guns, 3D printed firearms,
3D
that nature of stuff. 3D printed stuff.
3D printing in general.
3D printing in general. Quite a lot to cover. We'll get into that here shortly. But, as always, current events. I think I know the one that's on everybody's mind.
Yes.
Allow me to say this off the cuff. Trump was right. So you heard that the lab leak stuff. I just think that the only thing I could it just upsets me how much of a the flip flop double standard this country is. Like I know
there's the double standard of just the elite, the political elite, these people that think that they can basically dictate and control the people. They think the people are stupid. They think that
they're right.
I mean, they're right in a sense. I would say that groups of people, you could generally say that people are stupid, but individuals are not stupid.
I'd say it depends on which individuals. I'd say realistically, I'd say 50 to 60% of the country does not pay attention to basically anything.
It's because they're lazy.
It doesn't matter at that point. It doesn't matter if you're a genius or if you're actually an idiot. You're
not worth anything.
You default to being not useful.
So let's break down exactly what happened, though, because there might be some people that don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, so the lab leak stuff is the whole, putting it simply, it's like the theory that the coronavirus was released from a lab in China. Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, when Trump said that, everybody's like,
no, you're racist.
No, you're racist. You shouldn't say it's from China. That's racist. Screechy ree.
Screechy ree.
And Fauci's like, oh yeah, I've never said anything about this. I've never helped funding anything like that. So all these emails comes out that he basically funded a company that funded the Wuhan lab.
Okay.
And
on top of that, there were investigations going on.
There's so much
for far into that they were a part of that, and basically they're saying no. They had been saying no, it didn't originate there, or we're not saying it's originating there, and now all this information, all of these information has come out, and these emails have come out, which he should have taken a page out of Hillary's book and deleted the entire server.
Whitewash your server.
Yeah, but
yeah. So I mean, needless to say, it's everything that you thought.
Everything the media's been saying.
Yeah, well, the opposite of what the media's been saying. Basically everything that Trump said about it is effectively coming true. I mean, there's still, you still got to sit down and go through the evidence and that whole stuff that'll never actually happen.
I was gonna say, there's a lot of evidence here that could be not factual or couldn't base facts off.
This is real.
Emails are real. He actually lost a book publishing
Yeah.
gig
Yeah.
because of this.
I heard about that.
Yeah, they totally removed him completely from the book thing. Amazon scrubbed it.
Amazon scrubbed it.
It really sounds. What's funny is, so these people they cover for each other basically until one of them messes up, and then they all
They throw him to the wolves.
Yeah, throw them straight to the wolves. And I mean, you see it in pretty much all leftist politics, where you have like one person who messes up, and then the whole leftist mob that usually sides with that person is
Suddenly against them.
suddenly like canceling them, and that's the kind of culture that they've cultivated and created.
If the canceller is getting canceled, then what happens?
It's like the French Revolution.
Oh,
where
no.
the revolutionary the leader of the revolution ended up being guillotined.
Oh yeah,
I was just gonna say two negatives make a positive. So now does Fauci?
Yeah,
No.
when
I
like
don't
by
know.
his own revolutionaries.
Right.
So yeah, sometimes there's a lot of irony and stuff. But regardless, getting back to the subject, it's basically everything that. Not I don't want to say everything because that's a loaded term, but all the stuff that Trump was going on about how this is already originated in a lab, and how there was all of the virologists coming out being like, hey, this is showing tons of signs of being originated in the lab
Worked on it.
that literally worked on it, that were canceled, removed from air and shit like that because that was alternative
wasn't-
fact.
yeah.
It didn't fit main think. All these people that came out that were vilified are straight up getting proven right a year after the fact. So
And there's basically there's, even though Fauci is getting like book deals taken away and stuff, like there's still no accountability. Like he should be going to jail for misinformation and a bunch of other stuff. But at least I've seen a bunch of people saying that he should be put on trial.
let me see if I can find the there was a good acronym the Republicans came up with for Fauci.
Oh God.
Here, keep going while I'm looking for this.
But yeah, this is just another. How many more splashes in the pan do we really need? Like we've been talking about this for. Have we been talking about this for over a year now? Have we? How long have we been doing the podcast?
October.
Since October.
Yeah, it's been about
So
October.
Almost a year, and we've obviously talked about the virus very early on, and we've talked about all of these like little things that are happening, all the facts that are misconstrued or stuff that is left out, and it continues to add up. And it's just that's why a lot of us have stopped paying attention to the super the weekly news cycle, just because it becomes tiring. Like the same stuff happens and nobody is held accountable, and the cycle repeats over and over and over and over again.
It's called the Fire Fauci Act. Let me see if I can figure out what it stands for. Oh, great. It was Marjorie Taylor Greene. So that doesn't surprise me. It was an acronym that stood for something that I'm not seeing spelled out here. But it was actually it was pretty clever. But anyways, that's the Fire Fauci Act.
Well, and on top of that, there was a bunch of different, like, Dan Crenshaw came out and said something. Candace Owens came out and said something. I get a lot of this like breaking stuff from John Burke, because he fact checks his stuff before he posts it.
Fact check.
And he's been going off the past week about it.
Fact check.
So, just something to keep in mind. Something you can pat yourself on the back and all that.
Yeah, I just hope all the people that vilified Trump for a solid year because he was a racist, he was a bigot. Maybe we should throw it back at him. Be like, oh well, you're suggesting it's from China. That's really racist of you.
It's not like there's like some facts that are like supporting that it probably came from there. I don't know about that, but
Yeah, well, there's that. I heard one of the U.S. carriers was going through the Strait of Taiwan, and it was aggravating China.
Yeah.
Apparently there is. I saw something. Did you see something about possible nuclear escalation with China? Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I know.
They're talking about there might be a potential for preparing for that. I don't know about that one. I was like,
there was some
Something related to that. We'll have
Yeah.
to follow up on that one.
on the line of China.
We'll circle
too,
back.
There was another China related thing. So, John Cena.
Yeah.
John Cena, who is, in my opinion, pretty. I wouldn't say right, but he's like, he's not a liberal and he's not a communist.
He's not woke.
for sure.
But he basically was forced by the mob to come out because he was talking about like Taiwan. And I think he called Taiwan a country, and the mob came out and like freaked out because
That's racist.
So if you are unaware, Taiwan.
I am unaware.
Taiwan is basically the free part of China that left post World War II,
Right.
after the communist
47, if I
or,
remember
yeah,
right.
yeah, after the communists took over China basically.
Right.
And so that Taiwan, New China, Taiwan, whatever, that's like the free China, and then there's China
Actual
that's
China.
like enslaving
You're
Hong
right.
Kong and mainland China.
Right.
China does not enjoy whenever people call Taiwan a country because China claims to this day and has always claimed that Taiwan is part of China. Like that is their land. And you see it also in today with China trying to take over parts of India that used to be theirs and trying to take over like surrounding areas that used to be part of China during like the dynasty eras.
It's like the "This land is your land, this land is my land" song, except it's all my land.
Yeah.
Quote China.
But John Cena was forced to like apologize for calling Taiwan a country, and then John Burke, who actually worked with John Cena on one of his like shows that he did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was like Ultimate Warrior or something. It was something basically where John Cena was like the host guy. It's kind of like Survivor, like Big Brother, whatever, like those reality shows.
Yeah.
But there were teams of people, and then they had basically like cadre, and John Burke was one of the cadre for one of the teams. But
That's pretty cool.
so John Burke has a friendly relationship, I guess, with John Cena. And he even came out and said like, "Hey, John Cena isn't a bad guy. He's not a communist. He's not a liberal, but I wholly disagree with this stance that he took."
You know what? It would be. I don't know about you guys. It would be. I don't know how cool it would be to have John Cena as a friend. Because if it comes over, you couldn't see him.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Any other current events?
No, I was gonna ask though, like, so you said the mob?
The mob in
The woke
left the
Okay.
these people because
the actual mob.
That-
yeah. That's
Okay.
that's how I can see. That's what you.
They are
call them,
straight up the mob.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
The
Okay.
mafia mob shows up. It's like, hey, you can't be doing that about Taiwan, man. It's like,
No,
okay.
I was like-
hive mind left
Okay, got it.
leftist ideology.
I just wanted to
people.
make sure that's what you were talking
So if
about.
the mafia came out and was going against the woke people, it would literally be mob versus mob.
Oh no.
Absolute destruction. I don't know who would win.
Hey, and if there's gonna be absolute
way.
destruction around you, you know what that means?
Mad.
No.
You get that joke. I don't know. Do you get that
Oh my
joke?
god. Yes, I get it.
Ha!
But no, you gotta wake up.
Wake up! Oh, sorry,
You
Ben.
do. You probably should wake up.
You probably should have woken up like a long fucking time
Well,
ago.
I mean, sometimes waking up is hard. You know.
I would know a
Sometimes-
lot about that because I
You-
work nights, dude.
Oh, cry.
Don't rub
Cry
it in.
more.
That was
Cry
the
more.
joke.
I'm
I
sure
know, I know,
people, other
haha.
people, freaking work nights.
I'm sure there are. It's a hard life, okay?
Yeah. You know what?
no sympathy from me.
I don't want your sympathy.
As the saying goes, sometimes it really do be like that.
And it is like that. And it's fine.
Right. So getting into this, we're getting into 3D printing, of course.
I'll read off our disclaimers because I won't have much else to talk about.
Yeah, these are just for when we're talking about 3D printing in general, but we are going to get into 3D printing guns and stuff like that. So to make the YouTube algorithms happy, because I personally have seen channels get screwed up over this.
Yeah, we are not talking about how to make them. We are not showing how to make them. We are just discussing the ideas associated with them. That is all.
Yeah, it's gonna be an open. We're gonna talk about some stuff, but I figure we'll probably kind of go like a back and forth open discussion thing because there's a lot you can go on here. And for this particular episode, I'm pretty much gonna be taking like most of the point question type stuff. And I'll get into my background with 3D printing and stuff like that. For those who don't know, And maybe that'll kind of put a little bit of more credence to what we're saying in this episode. Okay, so to put it simply, I own a 3D printing development company. Is probably the best way to explain that. I have multiple patents issued to me over 3D printing, and have a long history with 3D printing in general. I mean, we're going almost 12 years from just being casual doing it as a hobby to literally this is a business. And then, of course, getting into the firearms, everybody knows the history of firearms. So taking into account, we do know quite a little bit. I'll say a little bit. There's still a lot to focus on. My particular company focuses a lot on plastics and thermoplastics and like urethane type materials or elastomers. Elastomers is a big one. So
bendy stuff.
Bendy stuff. Very, very bendy stuff. Actually, the most bendy in the world. But yeah. Spicy. But I figure we could, the thing that we should probably go into first before talking about anything with 3D printing is the feasibility of it. Or sorry, the misconceptions with it. Misconceptions. Then we'll get into feasibility and then some other things with that. Misconceptions.
So a lot of at least my misconception would be, as someone that has never 3D printed anything, would be the learning curve.
Yeah, so I think instead of just learning curve, we will just group that into barrier to entry.
Okay.
So learning curve is one of the things. We'll start there. So it's just like anything else. You can either jump into it and be well over your head with it, especially getting into some crazy programs that allow you to change every single setting. Or you could get into situations and programs. So like I'll actually give examples. So on the extreme end, you have something like Slicer or Simplifier, where you have literally every option. You can tune every little thing. And then on the other end, you have stuff like MakerBot. MakerBot has a couple examples out there that you literally drag, drop, and just be like, oh, I want this to be fine detail, and it'll calculate everything in the background. Or like Cura, it has simple settings. And
so like if for instance, like if I were to associate it with, like, I need to print out a piece of paper, and I'm really not too worried about like I just need to print out an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, like I wrote a document, like, or maybe I need to print a piece of paper that someone else wrote, and I don't need to know all the crazy stuff, but I just need to do that. Like, is that easy? Like, is it just as easy, pretty much?
We can use that as an analogy for it, yeah. So you can get the files one way or another, whether you make them yourselves or you download them off of a repository that exists online. Thingiverse is by far the biggest one. It's free. Download the file, and once you have the file, yeah, it's pretty much like running a paper printer. With just
so you don't have to steps. You don't necessarily have to know like engineering or definitely not to do any of this.
No, we did for the company stuff. We did outreach to like 15 different high schools, and we were teaching kindergartens how to run this stuff. But like some of them maybe not really even being that good at like multiplication and stuff like that. Some of them questionable and like addition and subtraction, and they're able to run this stuff. Especially the newer stuff when they make the nice little GUIs and make everything real clean and stuff. You don't have to have an engineering background. You don't even have to have a mechanical background at all. You just have to understand. It's like, well, the material comes out here. It could jam up, replace the material. Just like if you had a paper printer that jammed. That's a mechanical process. So there could be stuff like that. Newer machines, though, I mean, you're looking at a 70% success rate on most prints, and then most failures happen because of user error.
As most things.
Yeah, as most things. Sometimes you have some failures of the actual material. That's getting less and less common because the quality of material is going up, etc. So the barrier to entry for this type of stuff is, from a knowledge standpoint, is lower than it's ever been. They make it super easy.
Yeah, Adam, I mean, I have zero knowledge on any of this stuff, so I'm going to be asking a lot of small brain questions.
Yeah, no, I think it's great to do this type of format, because a lot of the questions you guys may have may be something that the audience has too.
Oh, for sure.
I think that's a good format.
So basically, just to kind of reiterate it, it's basically like having a regular copy paper like printer, only it prints with a plastic material instead, and instead of printing on pieces of paper, you're printing out objects of files that you find online.
Yeah, so 3D printing is the actual trade name for it's additive manufacturing. So as as the name implies, you're adding material as you go to build up your part. So the way that it works, we'll just focus on fused deposition modeling, which is the standard. You get the roll of plastic it feeds in, and it prints it out that way. There's over 25 different types of 3D printing that we won't get into too much, but this is the one most people are going to run is FDM, and it's effectively like taking a glue gun and drawing a picture, which is effectively how like an inkjet works. It
Yeah.
goes through, it draws a picture effectively. So you go through, draw the picture, and then you move up to the next layer, draw another
Okay.
picture, which each of those layers are a cut of the part. The process through which 3D printing is conducted in most cases is called stereolithography, where lithography, or people may have heard the term lithograph,
Yep.
is an image. So if you have stereo, means multiple. So imagine multiple images stacked on top of each other. If you stacked 1,000 images where each image is a little slice of that part, then you have the part again. It's like calculus. Like, if you take an integral, it's dividing a part up and building it back up. It's effectively the same thing.
Right.
Except it's mechanical. You just take the part, slice it down. Now, the process itself has the limitation where you have the layer height that comes in. So instead of that picture being literally a lithograph that's microns thick, which could, some forms of 3D printing, you can do that. You have like 1/10 of a millimeter or something, and you just stack them up, and boom, you have your part. Which, you guys remember I had the examples in a while back in the studio where one of them was real fine, one of them was real coarse. You
Yep.
could see the difference.
I mean, we also have the Flint Glock that it's a 3D printed
my God.
Glock model with a flintlock
Flint
handle.
Glock.
We should probably put a picture of that on our Instagram.
We should. This is
We should.
a Flint Glock.
This would be a great model to display for our listeners so that they understand what a 3D print can look like.
And so,
We gotta put that
so
on
the
the
way that
wall.
I kind of think of it, and you brought up the glue example, is like if you took a glue gun and you put out a piece of paper, whatever your base was, and maybe you want to make it like maybe you were in like second grade and you made like a glue house out of like a glue gun, and you would like layer the glue onto a piece of paper, and then
Wait for it
you
to
would
cure.
wait it to cure, and then you put another layer on
That's
it.
exactly how it works.
So
Wait,
it's
wait.
basically a mechanical way of doing that, but with a lot more precise and a lot better.
If you look at the heating end on a 3D printer called the hot end, it's the same thing as a hot glue gun. Now there's different methods of transmission, we'll call it, for the material that forces the material down through there. That's kind of a nuance, if you will. But that's exactly it. Instead of a piece of paper, you have the build plate on the machine. That's could be removable or not, but it's a specially designed piece that the plastic will adhere to. And then from there, it's just higher precision drawing.
So 3D printing has been around for a long time. Like I guess the concept of 3D printing.
3D printing
And-
was first theorized. Well, stereolithography in general was first theorized in 1986 by Chuck Hull, and then in 1987, Chuck Hull created something called the stereolithography apparatus, which is known as SLA, which we still have today. What they did back then is, and this is cool. They would take like scans of people, like say like the one I always remember is. Well, let me step back. SLA is very fast. It's a resin bath, prints extremely fast. Well, relative to other types. And I remember they would scan people, like do CAT scans for really high risk victims. Figure out, like, say someone's skull's crushed in, like, oh, maybe if we get one shot at this, if we mess up, the person's dead. They would run through a CAT scan. They could print that real fast with that SLA apparatus. The doctor
practice.
could come in and see it, be like, oh, wow, it's right here's the problem. Or, oh, wow, look, there's a shard right here. We got to be real careful about this. And it gave them an opportunity to get into that before they actually did. That is amazing to me. And, we'll get in 3D printing with the medical field is a whole different thing that we could go into for hours. But, I always tell people within 25, 50 years of fully 3D printed organs, it'll happen. It's not 3D printing's not the holdup. It's the medical side.
Oh, of course. I mean, printing, basically using.
They are
finding the material.
they are able to successfully print tissue and have been for 10 years. So like I remember they 3D printed. They took cultured cells out of a pig's heart and 3D printed a heart valve and started shocking it because your heart has that little electric pulse. I forget what that's called, but that electric pulse is what makes the muscles work, just like anything else. And they started shocking it with a similar pulse, and the valve started opening and closing. So they 3D printed a working heart valve.
That's cool.
That's absolutely wild. Post show, I'll see if I can pull the video for that. It's crazy, but getting into it, like 3D printing is crazy. It's taking the entire concept of manufacturing whatever you want, and you can just basically collapse that down into something that you can sit on a desktop.
Yeah, I mean, I like to equate it to like how they used to say, like way back whenever the computer first came out, it was like, oh, computers they'll always be massive, this huge piece of machinery that takes like a half a city to run, and now everyone has a computer in their pocket type thing. So now we have basically a printer that can not only print on a flat plane, but can print a piece, like an actual manufactured item, where you don't need this like huge CNC rig, or you're not like cutting out massive like milling massive blocks of whatever you're using. Instead, you're basically casting, or kind of casting in a way.
It's kind of its own process, but I mean,
Yeah.
you get similar up to that. And figure you guys saw the mini that I had the other day. That thing just, you pick up with one hand, carry it around, just sit it right down on the table.
Oh yeah.
And they've had printers smaller than that for 5 years. So you just pick up, there you go, like $100. You want one? Which goes back to our barrier to entry that you can get into this cheap. You buy a super cheap printer, you get what you pay for. But that doesn't mean that barrier's not there.
Yeah.
Of course.
Which figure, I mean, like that's relatively low. That you could manufacture parts.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like 3D printing, if you're trying to manufacture, prototypes of some kind for your company, XYZ.
Prototyping is the big thing.
I was going to say, like, you don't have to outsource this and pay, I mean, whatever the hell you would have to pay to outsource for a part.
Like, like some of our stuff that we've run prototypes for are on machines that are like $500 that get you like really high quality prototype level parts.
And we talked about printing things before. For example, can we talk about foregrips?
Yeah.
So we had an idea of 3D printing foregrips and wanted to see, the quality of them if in comparison to like an actual, like a Magpul foregrip. So, obviously depending upon how coarse you want it and so on, you can...
the material that you use.
Yeah, and the material that you
get
use
good
is-
results.
Exactly.
I was really impressed with some of the materials.
But my point that I wanted to go back on was the whole outsourcing thing for a product. We had this idea of trying this 3D printing of foregrips to see if the quality could be better than a Magpul foregrip. And when it came down to it, for our highest quality foregrip that we printed, we spent, what was it, like not even $3.
For prototyping sense, yeah. I mean, we got into that, and you could feasibly make the prototype relatively simple. I mean, there's machine time, and that's like, doing through that was like our proprietary process, where we went through and I spent, a couple weeks modifying the machine to make it print that, because we're talking bizarre, exotic materials. Like that was carbon fiber.
Right.
And not like analogous carbon fiber. That was carbon fiber. And, we did a thing through drop tests, slam tests, and it survived. I mean, you guys see it's on the front of my thing. I pick it up and shake it around. It doesn't break off. It doesn't creak. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And just to tie that into what we're talking about today is you basically can bring manufacturing of parts that you may need for any of the tools that you use, especially the stuff that we talk about a lot. Bring the manufacturing into your home instead of having to wait till like you order a part and you have to wait like a couple weeks. No, I would say something that I would be interested in is for like a quick fix. Something like I need a part right now to fix whatever I'm using, and like later on I can get like the metal part or something stronger or whatever.
I've done that several times.
But for now I can run this 3D printed stuff that I can literally just throw the file in and boom, it's done in a couple hours.
Or make it yourself.
Yeah,
like
or
design it yourself,
yeah.
So like for the company, going back to that, our entire manufacturing process is completely vertically integrated. We are able to get in the raw pellets for plastic. We have a way to make the material in-house that we designed. I'll say I designed at this point, but we have figured that out, and then from there, we design our own machines, build the parts for the machines in house, and everything is in house. So, like you said, you go from, oh wow, I got to call up these people, yada yada yada. Here's your 6 week lead time, etc. It costs you $10,000 to get this made.
Get one part made.
get
One
part
test
made.
part that you don't know is going to work.
Oh well, I have a really crazy example for that. I will get into here in a second. That it really shows the power of this. But now it allows you, and any company for that matter, to completely insource their prototyping. Like, what is that worth? A lot, for the record.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you're saving a
especially
lot of money.
especially as an individual. I think.
as an individual, it's limitless.
Yeah.
So this is where we always used to do it. Before, and I'll be quick about it. Before I started my own company, and did things that way, I did product development. I did like over 200 different projects, and the thing that we did that really set it off was the 3D printing. So if somebody wanted to get a product made, the traditional way to do that for the prototyping was you get the CAD done, or we'll say in the realm of CAD, it's different before, but say in the realm of CAD, you get the CAD done. Great, you have a CAD file. It's a piece of paper, so that's cool. But you would go to a company that specialized most of the time on injection molding. We'll say injection molded parts. There's so much else you could do, but simply, you're like, okay, well, we want to make this part here. It can be injection molded. So we will make you the mold for this. That'll cost you $10,000 to get the mold made. And we'll make you half a dozen parts so you like them. So you're like, look at the CAD. You obsess over it. You have hours and hours and hours in this thing. And you're like, this is it. This is beautiful. And then you're like, okay, this is great. And then you go through, spend 10 grand minimum. I've seen molds 50, 60,000, right? For a prototype mold. So he gets it. It's like, okay, well, that's great. Pulls it out. You look at it. You're like, I hate this. So you just burn all that money.
And time.
Oh man, time is the big thing. Especially like what do you do when you have all the, what if you do your company, you have massive engineering overhead and stuff like that, like so you have an engineering department. Well, there you go. There's $10,000 on the mold and $40,000 in salary just down the drain for this. You might be able to retool the mold, possibly, like if this needs extended. Okay, just retool the mold out. But sometimes you can't do that. So what do you do now?
Restart. Spend another $40,000 in labor, $10,000 in like whatever else.
Yeah, R&D costs, everything.
Yeah.
Or what you could do in a normal sense is now you have this. You're like, okay, well, what we can do is we can go over to our fancy dancy printer, which I mean, like you can get a production grade, like what I would consider ultra high end printer for $5,000 or less. And even in some cases less than $1,000. Depending on what quality you want, of course. But say you have one of those ones that's around $1,000, and now you have that machine that sits in your office that as long as you upkeep it, 10,000 hours on the machine, it'll still be running. Regular maintenance, whatnot. Now you can take your part, print it on there, be like, oh wow, I hate this still. But now you have 50 cents in plastic, you throw it in a recycling bin, and you print another one. And you don't like that, you print another one. You don't like that, you print another one. So you sit there and have this iterative process, like, 6 or 7 revisions later, like, oh wow, this is finally it. This is finally the one I want.
Instead of spending
$40,000 later
each time,
40 each time, and spending 10 months each time waiting for that next set of parts.
The typical lead time on getting a mold made back when the whole entire world didn't suck was about 6 weeks.
Okay.
So, that would add up. So if you add all that up, add all those costs to get those six molds there, you are literally about a year and $500,000 just to prove you hate it.
So here's another thing. So something that I just thought about. This also enables pretty much everyone because like a lot of these files are open to the public and can be edited by the public. It's like a crowdsourced. Like you can do crowdsourced
knowledge. Yeah, so I would be hesitant on the word editing, because it
depends on the proprietariness of the design.
Well, the interchange format for 3D printed files is something known as an STL file, which stands for stereolithography file, and that is I mean, it gives you the relative size, but it's just basically a bunch of triangles. So you can't edit that without knowing how to do mesh editing and B-rep editing. That gets very, very complicated. So editing aside, you can. There are literally, again, I'll use Thingiverse. It's a website where you can just think of whatever you want.
Whatever you want, search it up, and then
It'll
you
probably
can
be
print
on
it.
there.
Yeah.
Thingiverse, Yegi, GrabCAD, and then convert it into an STL file. I mean, it's just limitless.
Distributed defense.
Yeah, yeah. Defense distributed.
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
guys are what?
Nothing.
Oh yeah. Well, that's for the firearm side of things. Those guys are clearly it.
Yeah.
Ivan.
Yep. And
Good old
that,
Ivan.
that's
Oh,
the thing.
boy.
So now we can rapidly prototype new stuff. We can print out old stuff and use it for the stuff that we've already been using. And I think that's I just to tie this into the stuff that we talk about, like firearms and self-defense and stuff like that. This I would personally say I think it would be beneficial that within your like group of friends and your network that we've talked about before, that at least one person has the ability to 3D print stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot more practicality. Like again, firearms are the big inspiration behind why we're doing this. But it just the examples we gave earlier. There's so much practicality to it. It's like
Yeah, you could print out. I mean, hey, I need a new spoon.
yeah, you could do that. Especially like there are food grade plastics. You straight up do that. We could print that right now if you want.
A spoon?
Yeah, you want a spoon?
I'm good. But
Okay,
thank
good.
you.
Because I don't really want to print that, but but you could. Or a lot of it's like I use the phrase bracket as a really broad term, where you need to make something that fits custom, like mounts. I consider as part of brackets. So like, for instance, like we were doing we were out doing a day where we were out in the range, and it's like, oh, it would be cool to get some footage of this. So I 3D printed a GoPro mount
Yeah.
in an hour for my AK. It's like just right on the side. There wasn't one for M-Lock, and I was going to design it, but I was like, I have 2 hours. I don't know if I have enough time to sit down, figure it out, design it, and then print it. Because I knew the printing was going to take a bit. Because I wanted to make it nice, right? But the amount of power that
Gives an individual.
yeah, you could just sit there and it's like, oh well, I want to make a holder that clips on the side of my desk to hold my headphones. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to sit there and design it? Go ahead. Or do you want to download one of the 5,000 other ones that people already designed to think that you thought that you may want to do this too? So they shared their file and their work with you.
You want to put a handle on a can?
Fuck yeah, you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I remember that.
I still have that thing somewhere. Man, that was a long time ago. That machine was a piece of junk, and that was a crappy machine.
And it still made something.
and
I
it
mean,
still made something
semi-useful.
functional. I've learned quite a lot since then because that was like
We also made a muzzle brake for our airsoft gun. That looked
That's-
like a T-Rex head.
I have that.
I say you have that, yeah. That was also on the toaster machine. That was
oh
bad.
my god.
But see, so there's the practical side of stuff, which this will get into what we were saying about what I said accidentally said was the feasibility. We'll get into that. So you have your practical stuff, which I needn't explain, and then you got your fun stuff. I mean, look how many little tchotchke things people make. It's like the octopus.
Yeah,
yeah.
we made poker chips.
Yeah, the poker chips are awesome, and those are nothing more than like that's a cool thing that only you have, and that's powerful to be able to just snap your fingers and invent that. It's literally bringing the feasibility of invention to a single person rather than having to be forced out of it like many people were for generations.
That's a really great way to put it.
That is probably one of the most powerful things you're ever going to really run into.
And you're basically only limited by the strength of the material that you're using.
Yes,
the strength or basically the
There are limitations.
whatever the
Just like anything else.
Yeah.
I'd say the main thing that boils down to is process limitation and material limitation. So certain things cannot be 3D printed just because of the way that their geometries work, or they're too accurate, like too small, like microns across.
Give me some examples.
Okay, great example. This is the knife I carry with me every single day. There's a tip lock in there that shears off on these all the time. I've tried to 3D print those. I even tried with SLA, which is really accurate, down to like half the width of a human hair, and it still didn't work. It got it to print the shape, but it was fragile as all you know what.
Yeah.
One example, because it's too small. Now, you can machine one. You can injection mold one. And then then that gets into the second thing about material. The problem with 3D printer material is that in order to get it to 3D print properly, you have to very heavily chemically modify the material to get it to work like that, to get it to form into filament, to get it to be able to stick to itself, the cohesion stuff. Some of them, like ABS, is pretty close. I think, if I remember right, we did studies. I think like standard ABS to 3D printer grade ABS was like a 15% drop. It was within reason. But other materials, you don't hear outside of the 3D printing realm. So that gets tricky. So that would be what I would say with material limitation. And I'm not going to get into like this material, that material, because there are thousands. There's some cool materials that you can only get for 3D printing, or you could go. Most people print stuff with ABS or ABS or PLA. PLA is the most common because it's the easiest to print with, but that's like borderline just the design for that process, right? Or you can do things like the Flint Glock is PETG. This is food safe, so you could chew on this if you really wanted to.
What?
Yeah, you could. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could straight just take it in your mouth. Just take a couple bites out. Don't,
tasty.
please, don't do that, because that takes a while to make another one. But 3D printing isn't just limited to plastic. I mean, you could print metals, you can print composites, you can print ceramics, you can print glass fiber nylons, you can print titanium.
Can you print glass?
Yes, you can.
What?
Yeah, it would be
glass. I would think it is a pretty. It would
fragile?
make it would make sense because at least the heating process. Like if you ever seen someone blow glass,
you have to run it through an autoclave.
Yeah.
Yeah, they that one's usually down to like binder jet, and then it bakes out and then shrinks. Same with ceramics. But you could strip like I watched a guy 3D print a rocket nozzle that I made out of ceramic. Yeah, I know, right? He made 3D printed rockets. And Tegza on YouTube if you're curious. Recommend him. But all this culminates together that you can print basically anything you want. Now, if we want to get into firearms specifically, parts that people print all the time. Receiver, biggest one. And there's ups and downs with that.
And it also depends on the actual firearm
Oh,
receiver.
Depends on that.
There's a lot of dependencies, and there's a lot of research to be done. And that's, I think, one of the really cool things is now we have guys like Ivan and these people that are basically developing 3D printed parts for already manufactured firearms and giving you the ability to make a firearm in your home.
Yeah, because I mean, you have to follow your local laws and stuff, but like in most of the United States, it's legal to just make a firearm.
Yeah, and that's also the thing. People that also don't know, like you can make in the United States, you can make your own firearms as long as they follow the they're not
Your
NFA
state law.
firearms and you follow the state laws and
Yeah,
stuff
NFA
like
stuff is a totally different category.
But if you're making stuff for yourself and not selling it, then you can make whatever you want for the most part.
Yeah, legally,
Let's look at the SIG P320, for example. The fire control unit is what's serialized. You have to buy that through.
that's the receiver.
Yeah,
quote unquote.
that's the receiver or the
Right.
serializer or the thing that is
That's what makes it a gun.
that the ATF cares about.
Correct. So you can buy the lower receiver of the grip of the pistol
of a handgun, yeah.
and swap it out, or swap out your barrel, your upper receiver, however you want it.
Maybe you don't like
just-
any of the ones that they offer.
Yeah, you can make your own. You could literally
Exactly.
you could 3D scan your hand. Or like you how about this? Take a piece of clay and mold your hand around it. 3D scan that and straight up print a lower receiver that perfectly fits your hand. That is 100% possible.
Wild.
Isn't it?
Yeah. But I know this I already looked at these online because I was curious because I do have that M17, and you could print an M17 SIG P320 lower.
And there's actually fully 3D printed firearms. Not fully, but near fully.
No, there's fully. Liberator.
Well, yeah, that's like one-shot usability.
Doesn't matter. Still fully
Yeah.
3D printed. Even the springs. Is it practical? No. Is it cool? Yeah.
But then
There's a
you've
double barrel
got stuff
410
like
3D printed shotgun. Yeah.
you've got
What?
stuff like the FN or FGC9 that's nearly fully 3D printed.
Optimized for
minus-
3D printing.
What
we'll
is
say
the
that.
FGC9?
The FGC9 is the uh, F-word gun control 9, which is a 9mm
I love this thing.
3D printed, 3D print optimized firearm that was designed and made for 3D printing.
Ivan comes to the rescue again.
Yes. And the only thing I think, at least on the version 2 of it, the only thing that isn't 3D printable is the barrel.
Now, I haven't looked into the FGC9 version 2. What about the bolt?
I was wondering about that too.
The bolt would have to be metal at some capacity too,
Probably.
because it's pressure. It'd be pressure rated,
But I think I think all of that's easy to make.
or probably easy to acquire.
Yeah. Because I think you can just use like a plumbing tube for the barrel.
Oh,
or like
no.
Oh God!
Oh,
and
no.
Stop.
rifle it, and then something else. But it brings that ability. Like you can manufacture. Yeah, you can manufacture a firearm in your living room or wherever else it is.
I mean, yeah, because again, this is taking into the fact that it's legal to make your own firearm.
Yes.
Again, assuming your state laws and stuff. Again, we're saying you have to know what your state laws are, right?
Yeah.
But assuming your state laws say it's fine, you can take a 2x4 and carve it into an AR receiver. That's legal. You know,
That sounds so cool.
It wouldn't be very.
it would be very
usable.
useless.
Oh yeah, I know.
It'd be a weapon of minimal destruction, but
This gives you the ability to protect, like, in the absence of a firearm, maybe you don't have the means of getting a firearm or something like that, you can make your own.
yeah. Now since it's not serialized, not going through some rigorous process to serialize it, it's not legal to transfer it to
And
somebody.
the only reason you would have to serialize it is to transfer it legally to
and,
somebody.
and that's a process.
Yeah. Because then you kind of become like a manufacturer to sell.
You do.
Um,
So you have to run again. We won't get into that. That's very complicated. But like you said, you could 3D print a receiver for something. The second type that I would roll it into is furniture. I've seen fully 3D printed stocks that are custom designed. Some people do that to do like organic patterns on them to make them very lightweight. Grips that are ultra lightweight. I mean, there's the abilities for that are limitless. Kind of like you seeing a grip out. It's kind of the same idea. You follow the same thing. And then accessories, which we kind of touched on earlier. You can 3D print
rail covers,
basically anything.
Yeah, anything you would want to put on. You want to pick a tinny mounted
I mean,
sombrero, like sure, print it out.
Oh boy.
Oh my God.
I mean, you could probably print like
should do that.
flashlight housings and stuff like that.
Yeah, you definitely could.
If you wanted to.
The rule of thumb I've always said, because like you guys know, the whole entire front of my AR is basically 3D printed. I always tell people don't do anything that precision relies on. So like optic mounts, absolutely not. Laser mounts, no. Something like that should be made out of metal, because the material itself, the plastic that most people can print in, has too much give in it.
And also, we're talking about durability too. Like whenever we're
Yeah.
talking about flashlights and stuff that might get banged on the wall, we're dealing with the high
Might shatter.
pressure. Yeah, the high pressures of the firearm actually firing. But you could prototype a flashlight.
Yeah, you can prototype
You
that.
could prototype all of that stuff.
We should try that and see if the carbon fiber how hard that would withstand, like a head or something. Worst comes to worst, just breaks. Screw it.
But that's
Toss it in the bin.
that's the really cool part. And I have no engineering background whatsoever, and one of the things that I want to do is I want to get a printer and just to be able to have that ability, that functionality. Like I am that much more capable because I have this piece of equipment.
It's a tool, just like a really good screwdriver. It allows you to do that much more as an extension of your mind.
It's a Gucci screwdriver.
Yeah, you could 3D print a Gucci screwdriver with it.
Stop.
Actually, we 3D printed a crescent wrench that worked. That was adjustable. That we actually used. Isn't that cool?
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. And then you get into wild stuff like touch on for just briefly, like thermoplastics. I love like the elastomers that we work with and stuff. They're so cool. Imagine just 3D printing an AR-15 lower that you could stretch halfway across the room. Is it practical? No. Is it morally wrong? Yeah. Is it cool? Absolutely. sit there, fire your buffer tube like.
Or like O-rings or something, or
That's
Oh, you could make those.
so we with my company we currently have O-rings and custom printed gaskets on Humvees. We actually have Humvees that carry our product on it.
Okay.
that's
That-
very special.
That's pretty cool. We can talk about that post show because that's really neat. But I mean, so there's some looking at this from a literal standpoint, kind of collecting our thoughts on some of the things that we've talked about. Why would you want to get involved in this? So obviously the customization and ability that it unleashes. What more do you want? Like I said, it's basically like having
You can bring your thoughts into reality.
yeah.
basically.
What's that word? The way that I always said it when we did the product design was if a picture's worth 1,000 words, what's a physical part worth? And people are always like, mind blown. But that's true,
Yeah, it is true.
Like you could sit there and like,
Here's a CAD drawing, or here's the part
here's
that
the
I
part
made
that works
an hour ago.
right there.
Yeah, right there. And I've tested it. Like, this isn't a concept. This isn't a
This
theory.
is reality.
I've done it, and it works.
Yeah, that kind of gets into the issue though. Like, the problem with 3D printing is you hit what I've always called like the threshold value, where once you go over that, it's more cost effective to injection mold stuff. But that gets into you're getting a weird 50-50 with it, where yeah, that may become more efficient. But what if you have a material that's non-injection moldable?
Or come into a process where instead of, like, maybe we want to stop relying on injection molding. So now we're going to think of basically continue to innovate in the 3D printing realm to like the FGC 9 version 2, where
you
we
can
have
sit there and invent it yourself.
yeah, we've continued to, or Ivan has continued to perfect and make it better.
Yeah, because now there's the ability to do that. And like I said, if he screws up a model, he looks at it and goes, and throws it away.
Yeah.
Or recycles it. You can recycle plastic a couple times before you end up destroying the molecular substance. But what I'm getting at is, like, if you sit there and 3D print an entire FGC 9 and hate it, you have like $10 in material. Like Slapshot, how much did your magazine cost right there?
So this is a Magpul Glock mag. I don't use a Glock because Glocks are bad. But
Glocks aren't bad.
I'm not a Glock fanboy. But I use
You
a Shadow
have a
Systems.
Glock.
It's a Shadow
It's a
Systems. It's not a
Glock.
Glock. All right. Besides the point.
It's a better Glock.
That Magpul Glock mag, it cost me $13.99.
Okay, so you could basically print the 3D printable parts of an FGC 9 for that.
And just buy the spring. Basically.
And how much does that spring cost?
Probably a couple cents.
Yeah, it's probably about like 50 cents. Maybe 99
no, I meant
cents.
just the 3D printed parts. All the other stuff costs more. I think it was $180 total for an FGC 9 or something like that. Wasn't it?
It's just, yeah, something like that. But that's if we're
That's
talking about
everything.
pricing. If we're talking about pricing for that, that's like on the level. You're printing a usable firearm for the same price that you would be purchasing like a budget airsoft gun.
Yeet cannon. It's better
Oh,
than a
boy.
yeet cannon. So that's one thing. All the the availability of that, and the functionality of prototyping it. The second thing comes in is the customization. The customization's crazy. I made a flint Glock because I was bored. This is. What do you? Someone
It's a
pulls this
Glock
out,
with
it's
a flash and pen on
there's
it.
a flash
No, it's
pen.
not functional.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh,
Stop. No, your brain's thinking now to stop.
he's too dangerous to be kept alive.
Stop.
Make it take down, slot apart. Anyways, but like, yeah, customization, limitless, 100% limitless. You want to just put some obscene thing on the side? There you go. That has Flint Glock engraved in it.
We will post a picture. We will post a picture of this quote Flint Glock on our Instagram for you guys to check out on your own time.
At Wavy Night Few Instagram.
Yeah. Oh wow, we didn't even plug in our socials during this.
Yeah, we did. Very
We did at the
beginning.
I mean,
beginning.
yeah, but I mean, like we
It's
always do a
tacky.
shameless
I mean,
plug.
plugging the socials themselves, I think it's pretty tacky, but,
But
it
that
needs
wasn't
to be
tacky.
done.
That was good. I think it's tacky if it's not a good segue.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
it's extra tacky if it's
Oh,
a good
what?
segue.
Come on, that's
It's
you-
clever.
I
Come
mean,
on.
yeah, and it also comes down to like when people are, how long people are watching. But I definitely think at the beginning it's to let them know.
You
Yeah,
know, if you're not aware of like 3D printing all that much, and you kind of want to like just see what we're talking about, we'll post a picture of this. We'll post maybe a couple close-up shots just so you can see like the actual polymer.
yeah, because this was printed at 30 micron.
No one listening is gonna know what that means
I was
Micron
just
is
about
a
to explain what that
size.
is.
because I don't even know what that means.
Sorry, 300 micron, not 30. Excuse me. 30 is you can put it at 30.
unit of measure.
Oh, I know, I knew that, but
Three
like,
each layer is 3/10 of a millimeter.
Okay.
So that's why it's coarse, because you can see it. Because I wanted to print this so you guys could see it that one. I'm like, I gotta print this fast. So this took like 4 hours or something.
And
If
for
you want-
reference, it's a full size.
It's a full
like
size-
a full size Glock 17.
Yeah, it's based off a Glock 17.
Okay, so if you wanted to print that without seeing any Any of
If the layer lines are if you make the layers half as tall, it takes twice as long.
So if you wanted to print that like basically seamless, it would have been about 8 to 9 hours to print that whole thing.
No, if you wanted to print this thing seamless, it would be like 3 days.
Oh God,
It would be seamless and it would be beautiful, but it would be like 3 days.
that's a lot of like
That is a lot of-
electricity.
that is
Not really.
Okay,
Yeah,
not a lot of
it adds
electricity,
up.
but like that's a lot of power like pushing on your machine though. I feel.
no.
No?
They're made to print that long because most prints are.
Depends on what machine you have.
Okay.
Some are, some aren't. Like that, like the minis, they're not rated for that. You can, and I'm probably going to, and not really care, because
Because you can just print the parts.
if
that
it
you need to
blows
fix
up,
it.
if it blows up, then it blows up. It's not like it's a $10,000 machine. You know, the mini costs $400, which
I think that's.
you can easily recoup your money on that. I mean, yeah. But longest I've ever ran a print was 7 days.
What the heck were? I mean, is that classified?
Yes, actually.
Okay, never mind then.
That has an NDA on it, but
Got it.
it was 7 days. That was a big print. We had to run a 3 kilogram spool on that one because like the regular spool size wasn't enough, and it was basically the entire build plate. Was it crazy? Yes. Was it cool? Absolutely. So, yeah, customization's a thing. Experimentation, we already went into that. You can literally do whatever you want. Sums it up. And then lastly, cost. Cost is a big thing with this because, like, going back to the injection molding principle, you know, you've $10,000 to make a knickknack. Whereas, like, that right there, that was like $3, I think, in plastic to make that. Something along those lines. And you have a flint Glock.
Yeah, you get to tell people you have a flint Glock, and they look at you with their head cocked sideways, like, "What in the actual hell are you talking about?"
Would you like to buy the flint Glock? You can.
If this existed, like actually black powder,
No, some things
I-
just shouldn't exist.
I would spend the money on this just to tell people that I have it.
This is a ball. This is a cap and ball Glock. It's a,
Magazine fed.
not.
68 caliber.
Oh god. Mini ball Glock. Anyway, but yeah, the cost is a big thing. A lot of those plastics, like you get a kilogram of PLA for $15 on the really low end, and then the high end it goes off the wall. You can get like something that's Peak, which we had a part that was printed out of Peak, which is an exotic thermoplastic. It cost about $1,000 a kilogram, and the one guy at the office was like curb stomping it, and it didn't even dent. Like it's some crazy stuff. So there's all over the board. And I mean that's kind of your rundown on 3D printing.
It's neat stuff, and for someone who has absolutely no idea when it comes to 3D printing, it's definitely something. After today has inspired me to maybe want to look into buying my own 3D printer, just to maybe print some knickknacks or like.
Highly recommend it.
It's cool. It's definitely an ever growing space.
When we do presentations for the company, our introduction is always it's something. Well, we always usually say like "Welcome to the new industrial revolution," because it is.
Mm-hmm.
It straight up is. There's no sugarcoating, especially that Industry 4.0.
I can see why, because you could we talked about it. Like you can just make your own models. You don't have to outsource and spend thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Your dreams become reality.
Yeah,
At least for making parts or something like that. You know.
Yeah,
You can't 3D print money yet.
obviously.
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Yeah, you can 3D print.
Physical Bitcoin.
You can 3D print a physical Bitcoin, but it wouldn't be worth anything.
Yeah. But yeah, with that, I think that wraps up our discussion on 3D printing. Unless any you guys have anything else to add or any closing thoughts you'd like to.
I don't. I could talk about it all day long. It basically do.
But if you guys have any questions that we might not have covered during this whole Q&A session type thing, feel free to ask us when we'll point you in the direction of Crossfire.
I will do it for free without giving my normal consulting charge.
And yeah, so it's definitely something I think everyone should look into at a minimum, and I definitely think it's something that in your group of friends there should probably, I think it would be beneficial if one or two of you had the ability to 3D print stuff, and yeah. So with that,
yeah, highly recommend it. Company, I think maybe you're listing a couple companies very briefly that
Sure.
if you're interested in looking into it, for cost perspective, the cheapest and they're kind of crummy, but they are very versatile. Creality, you can buy an Ender 3 for like $200. Prusa is one of my personal favorites. The Mini's like 400. The Mark 3S Plus is like 750 for that. You can get like Ultimakers for anywhere from like $2,000 to $6,000, and then Taz you can get like 2,500 up to like I think their workhorse is like $5,000.
that still pales in comparison to like a CNC machine.
Oh, a good
terms of
CNC
price.
a good CNC machine could go
It's
up
like $400,000.
Yeah, say like a Haas or something go up that, but you can have 3D printers that go that high. So like I know this one company that's local that their machines are 650,000.
Jeez.
And I've seen them go even higher.
So what's I not to jump into another topic real quick, but what's the difference between a $600,000 printer and a $300 printer?
So theirs uses a very obscure proprietary process. That I actually know a lot about that I can't talk about on air.
Interesting.
Because I have some work with those guys. We can talk about that off air as long as it's not recorded, and I'll explain why it's crazy, because it is crazy. But you get stuff like that, or you can buy machines now that will 3D print and say like powdered titanium, print the part about 15% the total, or like 15% larger, and then the other half of the machine is a CNC mill that mills it down to final spec. So you don't have all the waste. Yeah. They did that. They did it like 10 years ago.
That's super awesome.
Isn't it crazy? But yeah, there's tons about it. If you're interested, please get a hold of either any of us or me directly on our Gilded at gilded.gg/WVF. You can also check us out on our Instagram at WeValiantFew. Check us out either here, like right now, on YouTube at youtube.wevaliantfew.com, or you can check us out after the show. Our show goes live 5 p.m. Fridays on all major podcast platforms. You can check us out there. Please like, share, and subscribe to this. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and do our other stuff. Like and share this. Please give this out to your friends. We love talking about this type of stuff. We love talking about cool, neat things. This season is a great season so far. You love it. It's going to be great. Huge. Huge. And then all that will be on our website, WeValiantFew.com. Still working on it. Tweaking some stuff. Tweaking a lot of stuff. So keep tuned for that. That's it for me, guys. I don't know about you guys. I'm good.
Stay vigilant.
Wake up, stay vigilant.
Have a good night, everyone. Day, whatever.